Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle the ideas of one of the 20th century's most challenging thinkers, Michel Foucault. And we're going to do it by looking at his work through two absolutely amazing novels. So get ready, because this might just change how you see everything. All right, let's start with a really simple question. When I say the word power, what pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's probably governments, kings, maybe your boss, a force that tells people what to do. Exactly. The dictionary pretty much agrees. We tend to think of it as this top-down thing, something that some people have and other people don't. It's a tool for control, something you can hold and use. Sounds simple enough, but what if that's not the whole story? Well, the French philosopher Michel Foucault came along and said, whoa, hold on, we're missing the big picture here. For him, power isn't a thing you can own. It's more like a complex, shifting network of relationships that runs through absolutely everything. So to really get a handle on Foucault's massive idea, we're going to build a little toolkit together. And our guides are going to be two incredible novels, Doris Lessing's The Golden Notebook and Bernardine Evaristo's Girl, Woman, Other. Okay, first tool in the box. Foucault's biggest idea is that power isn't centralized. It doesn't just flow down from a king or a president like a waterfall. It's more like a web. He said power actually comes from below, circulating through society in this huge net-like organization. It's in our families, at school, between friends, every single social interaction you have. And here's the real mindbender. We aren't just the targets of power. We are its vehicles. Power works through us, not just on us. It isn't just a big force saying no, it's a productive force that shapes our actions, our bodies, and who we think we are. So the key thing to get is that this is always in motion. We are all constantly moving around in this web. In one moment, you might be exercising power, like a teacher in a classroom. And in the very next, you might be the one it's exercised on, like that same teacher in a restrictive family situation. We are all doing both all the time. All right, this idea leads us straight to Foucault's next brilliant insight, the unbreakable link between power and knowledge. He says you can't have one without the other. In fact, they create each other. See, we usually think that knowledge is this pure, objective thing, and that power just comes along and uses it. Foucault totally flips that script. He said that power structures, think governments, universities, the media, they produce what he called discourses. And these are basically the systems of thought that define what we all agree is true or normal at any given time. We see this so clearly in Girl, Woman, Other. The character Yaz goes off to university, right? And she comes back with all this new knowledge, a whole new way of talking about feminism and identity. She then uses this knowledge to challenge the truths her mother grew up with, and that completely shifts the power dynamic between them. Knowledge creates power, and that power then reinforces what counts as knowledge. It's a loop. Okay. So if power is this giant, all-encompassing web, does that mean we're just trapped, helpless flies caught in a spider's web? Well, no, not at all. And this brings us to what might be the most hopeful part of our toolkit. For Foucault, resistance isn't some outside force that shows up to fight power once in a while. It's built into the system. You literally cannot have power without resistance. And we're not just talking about big, dramatic revolutions. Resistance happens everywhere, at every single level of that web. And the novels just give us these amazing examples. Resistance can be super personal, even psychological, like Anna in The Golden Notebook using her private journals to pick apart and question what it meant to be a woman in the 1960s. Or it can be a single decisive action, like Marion finally leaving her controlling husband. And it can be social, collective, like the playwright Amma creating her own theater company to tell the stories of Black women that the mainstream just ignores. Every point of power is a potential point for pushing back. So this constant push and pull, this dance between power and resistance, leads us to Foucault's idea of freedom. And it's not what you think. It isn't a state you finally achieve. It's not about escaping the web of power completely, because you can't. Instead, freedom is a practice. It's something you have to do over and over again. He actually borrowed this concept from the ancient Greeks, the care of the self. Now, this doesn't mean being selfish. It means actively working on yourself through thinking, writing, challenging your own beliefs, to basically shape your own identity. It's a way to govern yourself so you're less dependent on being governed by others. Foucault thought this was so cool, he called it a technology of freedom. What's so great about this slide is how it actually maps out that practice. In The Golden Notebook, the character Marion starts out totally under her husband's thumb. But then she starts observing her independent friends. She's gaining new knowledge. This leads to this sudden, awful realization about her own life. And finally, she takes action. She doesn't just magically wake up free one day. She practices her way to freedom through learning, questioning, and finally acting. Across both of these books, you see characters doing this care of the self all the time. Through their writing, their art, their self-reflection, by challenging the norms around them, they are all actively practicing freedom. They aren't escaping power, but they are creating new ways to be themselves right in the middle of that web. So, there we have it. We've built our Foucauldian toolkit. We get that power is a web, that it creates knowledge, that it always sparks resistance, and that freedom is something you have to practice constantly. So let's put it all together and see what this new lens really shows us. This is what's so brilliant. It shows how Foucault's ideas are just timeless. In the 1962 novel, the characters, mostly white middle-class women, are pushing back against patriarchy, and a lot of their resistance is personal, internal. Now, fast forward to today's novel, and the characters, diverse Black British women, are navigating these overlapping power structures of racism, sexism, and classism, and their resistance is often more social, more collective. The context completely changes, but the fundamental dance of power, knowledge, and resistance, it stays exactly the same. So you have these two novels, written decades apart, showing us the exact same timeless, everyday power struggles. But what does any of this mean for us, right here, right now? So why does this matter? Because this Foucauldian lens helps us see the invisible forces that are shaping our own lives. Power isn't just something out there with presidents and police. No, it's right here. It's in our daily conversations, in our families, at work. It's in the truths we just accept without thinking, and in all the small ways we can choose to push back. This way of thinking doesn't just explain novels. It gives us a new way to read our own reality. It encourages us to ask ourselves, what systems of truth are shaping my world? What norms am I just accepting without question? And where, in my own life, are the places I can practice freedom?